Let's talk NASCAR for the round of 12, Eric. So, one
Yep.
round in the books, and the trend, there's always trends. That's what we love about handicapping sports. There's always trends, and we've got a new trend for the 2022 season. And that's why you had to use cars that were out of the playoffs on Saturday night, because you saw it. There's the trend was happening, and it completed itself. 100% non-playoff drivers winning the first three playoff races. What do you think
Yeah. How
about
about that?
that?
Yeah. That wild enough. I got it in my. I went to this test at Homestead that they're doing to nothing probably big coming from it to post this article but it's about the next gen car and how it's changed everything. I mean, 19 of the 32 full time drivers have won a regular season race, or not a regular season, just a regular
Yeah.
race. And the reason I say that is because if you throw in the All Star race and the duels, you can throw the Clash, even though Joey Logano won there during the season, but that's 21 of 32 drivers have made it to victory lane in this car this year, which is very impressive. So that shows the parity. And you hear Ross Chastain and Kyle Larson, and I wrote about this today, and it's up about how this new car has produced so much parity that things are so equal. And if you hit it right, you hit it right. If you don't, you don't. There's not much you can do with it. There's not a lot of practice. It's just the same for everybody now. There's no differential between the parts. It's just the stock part. This is what you use. This is put it on, and there's nothing. There's nothing really in the realm that it's like, yeah, we'll save that for the playoffs, or
No.
yeah, we can take it. There is none of that. And then Denny Hamlin saying last week, and this is his quote: "When we used to build our own cars and design our own cars, you would just save the best stuff for the end of the season. Everyone would front load a lot of their best people, best parts, best bodies, best cars for the playoffs. There's no secret the ones who kept advancing, the cars just got faster. They started pushing tech a little more. It wasn't a coincidence. This is what we always say. The final four is always 1, 2, 3, 4." And he's saying that's changed because these teams can't do that anymore. And I think you're seeing that with none of the playoff guys winning a race. I mean, who would have thought?
That
And if you look at the guys that won, I mean, look, Eric Jones, third career win. And then you had Bubba Wallace, second career win. Chris Buescher, second career win. It's not like it's even guys that's like, oh, it's like Truex or bigger name guys.
Sure.
No, this is wild. And now we're going to probably the most wild round of the playoffs. You now have to start asking, are we going to go into the third round and none of the playoff drivers have won yet? Because you could kind of save a path that anybody can win Talladega.
Well, now you have
We've
four
seen,
more drivers. You have Kyle.
yeah,
You've got Reddick. You got Dylan,
Harvick
and you have Harvick. And we
yep.
know Harvick
And
can win, and we know Truex, and we know Kyle can win. So,
Yep, and I wrote about that today too. Both, coincidentally enough, we kind of talked to both posts that went live today about what do those four do now? Because you just added those names to that mix, and it's like, do they magically start winning now? Because they did in the first round, but now do they start winning? You get the picture. Maybe Dylan could, Reddick, but I also wrote with Reddick, Harvick, and Busch. It's kind of a different situation because Harvick and Busch have been here before, right? They've won 60 races each, 3 of the 8 championships. So it's kind of like, how do they operate moving forward?
yeah.
That's one thing I'm watching for Sunday is like, do they like, oh, this just sucks.
Well,
We're not even
Kyle's in
the
a
playoffs
much
anymore.
different situation than Harvick, though, as we talked about last week.
Yeah. To me, I think Busch just now focuses on like, how much is Toyota really going to give him? I mean, he's blown two of the 3 races in the first round. He had mechanical problems.
It's crazy. It's crazy. What's happening to that car is just crazy.
Yeah. And then Harvick, it's like, how much is he all in? And Reddick, I wonder, he's got to still be looking about his future. Like, what's going on here? Am I part of this third team? I mean, you guys all say I am, but there's any action behind it, or is this am I just a ploy for both of you to negotiate it? So I feel like those 4 are in intriguing positions right now moving forward. And coincidentally enough, though we find it odd, Kevin Harvick used to race for Childress. Kyle Busch is getting ready to race for Childress. And the 2 Childress drivers right now are both out. So all 4 drivers have a tie to Childress that are out, which is very odd too. But it's just funny that you've got drivers that have won 3 of the last 8 championships and each has won 60 races, don't move on. 2 rookies and 2 drivers in Trackhouse do move on. So there's no rhyme or reason. I think this just goes to show I almost wonder if since round 1 was that way, I don't think we've seen anything yet.
It's
I think
possible.
round 2 is going to be equally as
well,
bizarre.
Well, Texas could start the new trend if a favorite wins too. The combination of a playoff driver winning and will it be a favorite winning? Will that just instantly go away in this round with the first race? And if it does, then we have and we look. We certainly hope it doesn't, because it's a lot harder for us to make some money if the favorites start winning again. That's not what we want, but we'll find out. Reddick was the most surprising to me not to move on. But we talked about it last week that it's just if you have a bad car, especially at a short track, it could and we said it. We're going to get at least one driver that is just not going to make it, and it's going to be a surprise. To me, that's clearly Reddick. I just did not think Reddick was going to be in this spot.
No, I didn't either. I felt obviously Dillon. I didn't think he'd do enough to get in. I thought Briscoe would stay out. I mean, still to this moment, he doesn't have a top 10.
Briscoe or Cindric.
Cindric, yeah. I thought the 2 rookies and Dillon would make 3 of the 4. I thought Kyle would definitely get in, and I think before his engine, he was trending, and he was going to be in. And then I thought it would go. Harvick was my overall pick last week. That's why I thought he would take the last spot.
Yeah.
But I think it just goes to show Bristol's got a lot to work on. This next gen has a lot to work on. I thought the race in general, it was odd that the most action of the race was we're watching cars that were already loading the haulers and leaving compared to cars. I just thought there was a lot of drama against backmarker wrecked cars.
Well, let me ask you and we talked about this last week with the difference between the first Kansas race and the second.
Yep.
And they had all those problems in the first race, not as many in the second. If Bristol is old Bristol and no dirt crap, do you think we have a better race, a cleaner race Saturday night?
I think it's no, unfortunately. I think this result was a lot to do with this car.
So you think even if there's 2 races, no matter what, you believe start in next year, even if there's 2 Bristol races, no dirt race, that this is not a good fit for the car?
I do, until they make changes. Just because
what kind of changes?
You got to slow them down. I think you got to change the tire at some point. Because what happened in the truck race got us all excited. Look, they're all running the bottom. It's like the old Bristol. They're going to have to knock each other out of the way. Well, the tire in the Cup car is much different because it went from 15 to 18 inches. So it's bigger, it's wider, it creates more grip in a turn. There's less fall off. That's, I think, why you saw the tires blow, because they're not blowing. The tires are not degrading. It's just like running a hockey puck over and over. The friction, it's going to blow it out. And they're carrying too much speed in the corners because, again, you're having more downforce naturally because of this car and that tire. By going so fast, like Denny Hamlin said, I felt like I was going faster in the turns than I was on the straightaway. We're not lifting as much. So I feel like the gear ratios, the tire, the car, just, hey, it's great for a bouldering, but it's not great for passing because it was hard to get anybody to make it. It's like, how do you pass the car in front of you that's going the same speed as you are? Like, how you've got to have tire fall off. You've got to have. So
why do you think they can't fix it? Why do you think if this happened early in the season that they wouldn't have been able to fix it during the same season?
Money. I feel like it takes NASCAR seems, and I get it. Their side is, look, at these teams have budgets in place, and these are big problems. We can't just go spending a bunch of money to change it. Maybe in the off season. Well, the off season is not long enough, and that's what these drivers are saying. Like, look, and that was my other part of this. The article that I'm gonna have coming this week is the next gen has produced all this parity, all these different winners, but I feel like in that area has helped. In other areas, it's gone backwards. Like the short track package is, like these drivers have said, is crap.
Yeah,
I mean, look at all the short track races, and we're gonna determine a champion. The round of 8 cut race is a short track, and the championship 4 race is like a short track. So if this is going to be the product we're going to put out there, you got to make it better. I mean, Bristol, that was the least amount of lead changes, I think, since 2007.
Yeah,
and you look at Martinsville, it's so there's some big changes you have to make. That it's not just a tinker here, a tinker there.
Do you think they can do it though in the off season?
They could do it if they want to. I think these parts failures, these power steering, these weird attrition, it's like that stuff's got it. I mean, because like these teams are saying, these are stock parts. These are ones you're handing us and they're breaking. So I feel like it's twofold. I get you don't want to spend the money, but what I would do is, since there's some smart people in this garage and there's some smart drivers in this garage, I think you need to take a few from each team. So you're not like saying, hey, we're not going to let you guys just, hey, Gibbs, go make your own parts again. Hey, Penske, go make your own parts again.
No.
Can't you get the manufacturer that's supplying these parts and these smart people all in one conference room and say, let's figure this out together? And I think, yes, you might need to spend a little more money,
but you get a better
product.
It's gonna
have to, yes.
It's like spending money on marketing.
Yeah, I think that's where we're heading. As much as this has been good, there's also this
there's room for improvement.
Safety.
Sure.
Yeah. So I would like to see. That's why I said it's not something you can just do overnight. Which, does that concern me for the end of the season? Absolutely.
For Phoenix,
because
well, it's Martinsville and Phoenix.
Yeah, and my thing is, what if let's just use a driver still in the playoffs, Christopher Bell. Let's say makes the round of 8. He's 5 points to the good going to Martinsville, and his power steering thing breaks. No problem with his own, but it took him out of. How pissed off would you be? Or Kyle Larson at Phoenix, and there's 50 to go, and something else breaks, a stop part.
Maybe that's what needs to happen.
And that's where the drivers are saying, I don't think they care. They're going to parade this. Look at the passing. Look at they don't care about this stuff. And the teams, it's going to start causing friction. I feel like the teams in the top brass, and that's what you don't want to have.
Well,
so before it gets too far
try
out of
not
control,
to blow this.
No,
because they got a good thing going on.
I look at the opposite fold too, as a fan, as a reporter. Hey, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick are great storylines not to be in it. Hey, that's a big storyline. But if you take Kevin Harvick's car catching on fire for no reason at Darlington and his tire blowing, 2 factors out of his control, Kyle Busch, 2 engines out of his and Toyota's control, failing them, they're probably moving on. So I feel like part of this is contributing to the parity. It's kind of twofold.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a fine line. I don't know what that is. I'm not in the nuts and bolts of these teams, but I feel like there's something out there that they can do to kind of get to the middle of, we can't be having tires blowing for no reason. We can't have power steering pumps literally falling off in the middle of a race, tearing stuff up.
This will be our responsibility in the offseason. We'll definitely bring in some mechanical expert from NASCAR, somebody who used to work for NASCAR or something like that, that can explain what they can do, what they are doing, what needs to be done, and all that. But look, we're through one playoff round, and as you said, we have 2 former champs out now, and we move on with Cindric and Suarez and Briscoe, part of the group. Now, I'm not sure many people would expect those 3 drivers to move on to the round to with 6 races to go, with 4 races to go. But hey, it's a crazy season, and if one of those drivers wins a race, they'll be there. They'll be there with 4 races to go. So it could be quite interesting, because now we're going to a racetrack, which when we were there last time for the All-Star race, it was incredible how many of the drivers, especially of course the veteran drivers, just hated it and couldn't stand it. We shouldn't be here. And yet now we're racing an actual playoff race at this racetrack. This can't go on. I hope they've got some better ideas for Texas in 20. We saw the schedule last week. Are they making any changes?
They lost the All-Star race. They lost the date. They're down to 1 race weekend, but it's in the playoffs, which I didn't think they would take it away because of contracts, but something needs to be done because this
same surface, right? They're not doing anything.
They're not touching it. Yeah. And what makes this one even more interesting, which is funny how it played out. Let's be honest. This is probably graded. If you just be an honest poll with every driver, every team member, every crew chief, every owner, everybody in the garage, and say, rank the tracks, top to bottom.
Oh, yeah.
This is the bottom. This is bar none the bottom. But it's arguably the most important race of the playoffs because you have Talladega and the Roval next. This is the one that they say you can control your own destiny. Other than Phoenix, this is probably your most important race, and it's one that usually is a stink show. And the only good thing they have going for them down there is the Dallas Cowboys. I noticed playing Monday Night Football, and they're not home, so maybe you get more people to that race, but it hasn't been strong in the grandstands either. So,
the two drivers who probably feel like they need this more than any of the others are probably Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell.
Yep.
Because they know that they are not going to produce on the road course. And then you've got Talladega, as you mentioned, which is who the hell knows what happens there. So either one of those drivers really needs to, because you're looking at it, they're 6th and 7th in points. So it's not like they're 2nd and 3rd. One little mistake, and then they go to those two races, and they're in big trouble. So even if they don't win this race, they better finish like somewhere in the top 5.
And that's what it's in one of my burning questions this week for Thursday. I moved them up a day since get more storylines leading into the weekend now. That's one of my burning questions is Toyota. Look, right, they've had a lot of parts failures. You look at Darlington, Truex and Kyle while leading. Look at last week. All of them had problems. Even Denny Hamlin said his power steering was going awry at times. So they cannot afford that this week, because I got it right here. If you look at road courses for Christopher Bell, here's his finishes this year on them: 3rd, 27th, 18th, 12th, and 8th. It's all right. That's different. Oh yeah, that's road courses. Super speedways. Here's his super speedways: 34th, 23rd, 22nd, 19th, 36th.
Yeah.
That means if he doesn't do good this week, he's probably on the outside looking in going to Talladega, and I don't think he's done enough to show me he's going to be on the good side of the cut line going to the Roval, and those stats kind of say he's probably not going to do much. Denny Hamlin, one would say, oh yeah, for super speedways, he's pretty good on them. 18th, 31st, 17th, 14th, and 20th. That's all he's done on super speedways this year. Road courses are even worse: 37th, 29th, 18th, 25th, and 25th again. So yeah, this is it for them.
They should not have these two races in the same playoff round. They just shouldn't. It's too much. I mean, a road course and Talladega. I mean, come on.
It seems gimmicky, because you're going to probably have some guys that deserve to be a championship that are going to get knocked out. Because right now, on paper, I have Hamlin not advancing past this round for that reason.
I could see that. Again,
he should be a championship contender. Sure. But if you look at, I don't trust, and that's why I didn't pick him this week. We'll get into his stats at Texas in a minute. But then you look at his stats at the next two tracks, it's like, what about that tells you he's going to get enough points to advance on?
Sure. Especially
where he's sitting at right now. So I have him out. I actually have him not advancing.
Yeah. Last year, so they had Vegas, Talladega, and the road course.
The Roval. Yeah.
Yeah. And Denny Hamlin won Las Vegas.
Yep.
So he'll need to do pretty much the same. What did he do in the other two? He wins the Roval, and then he finishes 7th at Talladega and 5th. But again, last year was a different car. For whatever reason, Toyota is just not, with this next-gen car, is not fitting Toyota and road courses in 2022. Talked about it all year. Okay, so putting to bed Bristol, you were the big winner. You gained 220 points on me. I actually finished in last, 20 points behind CJ, and you're also, of course, had Buescher on your fantasy team winning. So
so I kept him.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you and I both had Buescher. CJ did not go with Buescher as a long shot. So you made a little bit of money on Buescher. I basically broke even with his win. And look, CJ had Elliott 2nd, Byron 3rd, and then he had drivers that finished, and this is his fantasy team. Then he had drivers finish 34th, 35th, and 36th. So that's why he had a very uneven fantasy day. And for me, I had Reddick go out and Harvick go out, and Bowman, of course, wound up going out as well, which cost me. But Christopher Bell actually had a really good day, only second to Buescher as far as leading the laps. And really watching the end of that race, it was like the old Bristol, you just kind of know, or the old setup, you just know that at some point, with that many laps to go, either you were going to get a caution or you were going to get caught. It was just, but the way the race was going, you just had a feeling that he wasn't going to get caught.
Yeah, I knew once probably like 20 to go, and I was looking at the margins getting bigger. I'm like, it doesn't matter. This goes to show the tires don't matter. He took 2 tires, and he's pulling away from Chase Elliott. And I think, in fact, the old Bristol, too, when everybody used to run the bottom, what happens is you catch lap traffic. Because if you're on the bottom, you're going to eventually catch the cars in front. But it seemed that the line moved back to the top, like it was like Darlington or something. You notice the guys were running against the wall, and that was the fast way around. Well, if that's the case, then the lap cars will just run low, and then there's no impeding of a progress. And I think that's why you saw it.
And there were a lot of cars that didn't finish the race, so there was a lot more open racetrack.
Yeah.
So
I think it was the perfect storm. So there's got to be a way to get the cars back to the bottom, and there's got to be a way to slow them down. Because once that happened, Buescher was gone. Like, he's got this thing won. And this is going to win me a lot of money. He was 100 to 1.
There you go, right?
That was the reason we talked about last week. I'm going to go with more long shots, and it worked. So,
as far as Texas, so it's a 1.5 mile tri-oval compared to the other 1.5s. They have higher banking. I guess you could say the most similar track would be Charlotte, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
And so we had the Coke 600. The biggest difference, of course, is how long the Coke 600 is. And that could have, and that might have been the reason Denny Hamlin won the race, because he only led like another situation where we had a driver winning the last like 15, 20 laps, just like Chris Buescher. I'm going to win the last 140 laps. And so Hamlin won the last several laps. That's all he did. So if it wasn't a 600 race, Denny Hamlin probably doesn't win. 7 of the last 8 winners at Texas started in the top 10 with 2 pole sitters. No Texas this year, so we don't have anything to go on. If you want to go on the All-Star race, I didn't. So I
don't recommend it.
Yeah,
completely different. Yeah, it's a completely different race, like the driver said. With the All-Star race, they break it into like 20, 25 lap segments, and this race won't go like that. So it's kind of hard to base something off, and they just bunch you back up every 20 laps. So, I would not base anything off the All-Star race. Yeah, I know I'm like, well, Kyle Larson won the All-Star race and the race last year. I'm like, different format, different car. Larson was by far the best driver last year. There is nobody that stands out this year. I don't think Ryan Blaney, entering this race, who won the All-Star race, has the fastest car like Larson had last year. So, I don't recommend using the All-Star race as a measuring stick for this weekend.
And manufacturers, there's no trends there, so it doesn't really matter. Don't worry about that. Before we dive into full previewing Texas, we had one viewer that had a lot to say about IndyCar last week. Bart Sullivan, you had all of the time to read what he had to say. It's a lot was on Bart's mind. So, because we talked about the whole point system with IndyCar.
Yep.
So he threw his 20 cents into that, which we completely appreciate, the dedication and the passion. So what did you, out of everything that he talked about, what did you kind of gather the most about his points he was making, etc.?
Honestly, can you read me? I don't have it in front of me. I don't want to
I'll try to go through. Yeah, I'll try to. Yeah. So actually, one of the things that I really found interesting is that Bart was at the race.
I did like that. Yeah, he said he was in the corkscrew. Yeah. I remember a lot of it, what he said, but I don't want to address something wrong. I got the NASCAR stuff up here on my computer. For those that don't know, we sometimes get technical difficulties and have to redo, and I'm afraid when I get everything up here to touch something and knock us offline.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. So he says Joseph drove a fantastic race, but he was not catching Palou unless there was another yellow, which didn't happen. Being a dad, also, it makes me wonder if he really wanted his son to see him win the championship. Like how cool it is to see your dad win it all. He referenced Tiger Woods and his father, those kind of moments. He says, when you see Will's career arc from his double bird days, reckless and take no prisoners, to today, seeing that the guy's passion is legit makes you appreciate the guy more. Some people come off as phony, but with Will, no way. Talk about willpower there and his comments.
No, he's he's exactly right. Spot on all of it. Because Newgarden, for sure. Now that he's a dad, would love to get his third championship, but first as a father. And was in striking distance and come from 25th on the grid all the way up there. I mean, on a track that really nobody can pass on, and he's still improved all but one spot. So up for the one spot to win, I should say. I mean, he wasn't happy. He never is happy when he loses, especially a championship, no matter teammate or not, to come from that far down back. I mean, it was saying something. And for Will Power, I mean, he was reckless in the day. This was the 5th time he's led the championship standings going to the final race, and he's only won one of them.
Wow.
So he was 1 for 4 coming into this. He always kind of not choked, but just didn't deliver in the final race in that moment. And this year, like we've talked about, a guy that won one race to be here winning a championship tells you how much he's changed. Will used to be a bunch of wins and a bunch of 10th to 15th to 20th place finishes. He'd get wrecked. He'd be over aggressive. And now he's tempered it back. Now he's just like, you know what? I'm not going to push for that win. My car is probably a 5th place car. I'll take 5th. I'll take 3rd. I'll take what I can get out of it. But I'm not going to go the extra mile and put it in danger and wreck. And he's learned. And I think that's obviously why he won the championship, because he didn't have the most wins. I don't know if he had the fastest car, but he did what it took to win a title in this day and age, where a Newgarden had as many finishes 13th or worse as he did wins, where Power had, I think, 9, 10 podiums in 17 races. That's really good.
Yeah.
He didn't used to do that. So, he's evolved to really what it's going to take is what Power is now is that driver. You all are going to have to beat me at my own game. I'm just going to get a bunch of podiums and top 5s. I may not win a lot, but I'm going to score as many points as I can get. Now, you all are going to have to beat me in this game, or you're going to have to get really lucky and win a bunch of races and get a bunch of top 10s when you're not. I'm just going to take a bunch of podiums and top 5s and very minimal finishes outside the top 10. So that's an interesting strategy that seemed to work, and I don't know why you changed now. So he, coincidentally enough, told me back in June, I can't remember what month it was. I think it was May. I think it was here in Speedway. Ironically, what forced him to start focusing driving like this was his qualifying. You're right. He used to be Will Power's always. He's the pole master. I mean, nobody's won as many poles as he's ever had now in the IndyCar series. But the series got tougher and his qualifying results got worse. It's like it went from he was a guaranteed fast 6 to he's not even making out of the first round, or he's now barely inside the top 10. Where he realized I'm starting further back. My racecraft has now got to change. I can't be as reckless. I'm not up front anymore. I've got to be meticulous of how I get to the front. And that's caused them to maybe slow down, take a bigger look at the picture. Hey, I'm starting 8th. I'm not going to win. Maybe I can get the 2nd or 3rd. Let's not push it going that extra mile and get a wreck instead of finishing 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Now I'm 25th. So that's what he's kind of talking about, his approach. And he's spot on. That's exactly what's happened. That's what Will Stevens said out of his mouth. So great comment. You're around the money on that.
And then regarding the points, I think it was fair. Power did win the most poles. Joseph the most races. I'm not sure which of them led the most laps. Do you?
Actually, Scott McLaughlin was the lap leader. I have it. I tweeted that. I think Newgarden, I think, beat Power in laps led.
It did make me wonder if by winning all the poles, did Will use too much of his tires before the main races?
Yeah, it's a legitimate question. So what he's saying is you get a certain sets, and I wish NASCAR would do more of this too. They did this year, but I wish they'd have an option tire like this. So let's say, I think the last weekend you had 6 sets of primary, which are the blacks, and you have 4 sets of the alternate, which are the reds. Well, everybody knows the reds. I shouldn't say everybody knows. Not a lot of people know. The reds are faster tires, but they fall off quicker. So let's just say you're going to run the fastest laps in laps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're going to really fall off a cliff. You're really going to be struggling by the end of the stint. where the blacks might be quicker laps 6, 7, 8, 9. They're going to be quicker on the long run. But on qualifying, you use the reds.
All right, now let's preview the race coming up this week. How many drivers did we correctly predict together? Last week, I think we only had 1 or 2, so that was low.
It was 1.
This week, we have 5.
I am going to say Larson.
No, I did not take Larson.
Bell.
No.
Yeah. Bell.
Yes.
No, not Bell. Oh, Bell was
yes.
1. Blaney.
Yes. Both are 10 to 1.
Bowman.
Yes, 30 to 1.
Byron.
Yes, 12 to 1. One more.
Jones.
No more long shots.
No more long shots. So then, did I say Logano
No.
yet?
Yep.
Is it him?
So
Okay.
Bell, Blaney, Byron, Logano, and Bowman. Those are the 5 drivers we all predicted together. And once again, you and I mainly staying away from the favorites. We both dabbled in one favorite. That's it. You went with Larson. I went with Hamlin. CJ continued his favorite fest, going with Larson, Elliott, Kyle. He's still holding on to hope that the favorites will kick back into gear. Maybe they will. But he didn't take Hamlin. So we'll see if that strategy works out. Oh, all right. So explain to me why you took Elliott over Hamlin.
I just felt with this track and with Hendrick being pretty good on mile and a half, intermediate type tracks this year, I just felt it was that plus Toyota's problems. It was hard to take Hamlin knowing that Toyota struggled, and 5 of his last 9 finishes at Texas have been 21st or worse. And he was a co-favorite at 6 to 1. That never ends up well. So I'm like, I'm going to punt on him. Not like you get much better odds. You still get a little bit better odds with going Elliott, who we've seen could dominate a show or not. And granted, he hasn't been great at Texas either, but you can't take a lot of the last few years over to this year either. So that's why, like, you know what, I get a little bit better odds. And it doesn't seem like the guy that's usually a co-favorite that hasn't shown that he should be a co-favorite ever typically wins. So that's why I shied away.
Yeah, Elliott's led only 44 laps in his career at Texas, but he was 7th last year, had top 5s in his first 2 races here in 2016, and he led 86 laps in the Coke 600. Hamlin won the Coke 600, but only led 15 laps. He has 3 wins at Texas in 31 races. He actually only, if you think about it, when he swept in 2010, since then he's only had 2 top 5s. 1 was a win, but that's it. Not a whole lot of other. Again, it goes into, but this is a new year, so we're kind of. There's definitely some guessing on our behalfs when we're trying to pick which of the favorites to take. It's not easy but at least we all have one of them. So we didn't leave someone all by themselves. So, but that's what it was for me, because I'm going Larson, Hamlin, and Elliott, and I wanted to pick them all. But it's like, money-wise, I don't even think you could pick 2. And I think you agreed with me, unless you do what CJ did and kind of go all in again on most of the favorites. You just can't do that.
You can't. And there's been too much now to show that it's hard. Here we are in the second round of the playoff. This is the 30th race, and we're still guessing, and we're still showing that 3 playoff races were won by non-playoff drivers. I can't go all in on the favorites right now. It's shown that and I hit last week with Buescher by doing that. So I'm like, I'm going to go back to that again. There's no reason to go all in on a guy. Like, the stat alone, as you said, since 2000, we'll say 2011, because he swept 2010. Since 2011, we're talking about over a decade, the guy has 2 top 5s on that track. Why is he 6 to 1? There's no way I could invest that much money in somebody that has 2 top 5s in a decade on a race. Just couldn't do it.
Understood. And next up, Larson, by the way, the defending champ, led 256 of the 334 laps last year. So if this was just a regular year, Larson would probably be 4-1, and we would be taking him. But
yes,
it's a new car, and also it's a new driver this season. He's not the dominant driver he was last season. Even though, as we even said last week, he's continuing to kind of. It looks like he's picking up steam. He's trending in the right direction. So he could be kind of getting ready to put together maybe the best string of his season, because we're at that time where you have enough races where you could look back as a champion and go, I put together my best run of the season right when I needed to the most. And
that's what it's going to be. Yeah, is right now. And he's got 4 top 8s his last 7 on the season. And if you just pull it out and just look at intermediate tracks, the tracks that classify as like 1.5 mile, 2 mile tracks, he's got 4 top 4s on him this year. He's been pretty good. And you give me the guy that won the All-Star race, then turned into dominated the playoff race last year for 6-1. I'm going to go that way all day. Like you said, he should probably be 3 or 4-1. But because of the unpredictability, he's 6-1, kind of double the odds of what I thought. I'll snag him. Pretty good odds for me for a guy with that caliber.
All right, so those are the 3 top favorites. Now, you and I stayed away from Kyle. I don't know. Again, we talk about odds. I don't know how Kyle's 8-1. Even though he was 6-1 or 7-1 the last 2 weeks, and I thought that was ridiculous. I even told 8. I mean, are you watching what's happening to him? And are we watching the same Kyle Busch? It doesn't matter how fast he is. You just know something's going to go wrong with his car, or he's going to get into trouble somehow on the racetrack. It's just that's the type of season it's been for him. So, look, if he wins, more power to him. We know he's more than capable. He's had a dominating career at Texas, probably better than anybody in this race. But and he was second in the Coke 600, but I don't know how you take him.
I don't know how in the world you have a guy that has finished 26th or worse in 5 of the last 7 races, no top 5 since June 5th at 8-1. And he's not in the playoffs anymore, on a team and a manufacturer that are basically now saying, hey, we're going to need, that work issued computer and all.
Yeah, right.
We need those back now. You're going to go over to this different manufacturer with a different team, and we prefer you not take any of that. So you're not winning the championship this year. We need that back. Oh, we're going to put you 8-1 to go win that race. If he hasn't won yet, what makes him think he's going to win now?
I don't know.
So no, especially the first week after I did this last year, and obviously it worked because most of the races were won by playoff drivers. But the first race after you get defeated from the playoffs,
that's the one I'm not touching the guy. Yeah.
It's a letdown. You're not going to win. That's why I didn't choose Harvick this week, and he very well could with his stats at Texas. But what makes him think he's just going to pick it up and I'm going to keep the same morale. I'm going to go in and win this race.
Sure.
You're naturally down. They're human beings. So the fact that he was 8-1 with that, what are they thinking?
That's what I'm saying. If he wins, more power to you.
Yeah.
Not on my dime.
But, no, I don't think it's going to happen. He's one that I don't even know if he'll get a top 10. I don't feel
I agree.
I mean, he's struggling.
I don't think he's going to finish the race
in the last 3 months. Yeah, so get an engine to get you the checkered flag before I start picking you to win.
Give me odds on that. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be a better play than an outright win at 8-1. Yeah, probably not happening.
All right, so now I took a bunch of these next drivers, and this is where most of us took drivers too. We both took, as we mentioned before, Bell and Blaney at 10-1. So Bell's been here 3 times. He's finished 3rd twice. He's on a run of 3 straight top 5s in the playoffs. So, and as we said to start, got to win this race. Get it all over with. Move on to the next round so you don't have to sweat it out. That's why you and I both put the same amount out of our $300 invested with this week. We both put 50 of it on Christopher Bell.
Bell's one you just get the feeling he's going to win. The stats are lining up for him. And what's crazy is if you, like we said last week, kind of a Christopher Bell name bias. If you just take his name off, but you just put Kyle Busch next to those stats, he'd be 2-1, right? 3-1. Yeah. I mean, the guy's finished 3rd in this race for 2 straight years. There's one driver out of anybody in the playoffs, counting the ones that just got bumped, that had a top 5 in all 3 races.
Yeah.
It's him. He should have won last week. It's not his fault his tire went down. So you got all of that, and he's 10-1. Like, that's an absolute. I almost went even more on him, but I was like, no, I'm going to go with my long shot. I almost doubled it. He's the guy. Throw $100 his way, you might be real happy on Sunday evening, because I feel that strong about him. And you look too, he's got 5 top 8s and 7 starts on intermediate tracks. 5 out of 7. So it's not like he's just good here. He's good at all the intermediates, and even this year. So you can say, oh, he's finished 3rd, and this is a new car. Well, okay, he's got 5 top 8s on the same tracks this year.
And he was 5th at the Coke 600.
I'd invest heavily his way.
So, and we both put money on Blaney too. Matter of fact, I went with 40, but you went with 41. I don't know where that came from, but so you had $1 more on Blaney than I did. And Blaney, 7 top 10s in his last 8 races at Texas. He was a runner-up in 2018. The time he did not finish in a top 10 during that stretch. He finished 37th, led 45 laps, but had an overheating engine. He has 3 top 5s out of the 13 races. He's led over 400 laps here, finished 6th last year. And you talk about another driver that needs... Now, Blaney, what he needs is a little bit of, let's lead some laps. Let's kind of lead some laps again. Let's finish. Let's be, we don't have to win, but let's be a top 5 car this week, because unlike Bell or Hamlin, we know he can respond at Talladega, and we know that he's been very consistent on the road courses this year. So but as we've seen over the last, with all these drivers, and we've seen it with Blaney in a few of these races lately with the car, you just don't know if his car is going to survive it.
This is the round, oddly enough, what we said last year. Blaney can get out of the first round. The second round favors him the most. And I feel like, again, it does. I mean, he won the All-Star race in Texas. Not saying you can take
it helps, but it helps. Sure.
It
doesn't hurt.
But as you said, out of his last 8 tries, he's got 6 top 8s in the same track. And the 2 he didn't, but 145, 150 laps. He could have won those. Plus, you got to look at, let's see what he did at Talladega. He finished 11th in the spring, but he's a multi-time Talladega winner. He's one of the best super speedway racers, so that suits him. And then the Roval, he's got 3, if I'm not mistaken, he's got 4 top 10s in 4 tries.
You there? Let's get Eric back on.
Sorry, that was me. I'll go back to Blaine. My wife was calling.
Oh, the phone! Oh, the dreaded phone call.
Yeah, I meant to ignore it in car when we were done, and I hit in on this one. So
I'll be done at 4 o'clock. You can call me after 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 4:01, 4:02. Here comes the phone call.
Yep, there it is. Yep.
Okay, so Blaney. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, the Roval, he's got a top 10 in every time he's been there. So this is a round for him that he doesn't necessarily have to win to get by, but I feel like out of these 3 races, we've seen, like I said, 19 different winners, points paying winners. He's number 20. He's sitting right there, and you're getting good odds for him on a track. It's arguably, probably could say his best track.
It could be. So, yeah. It's not, but it's top 3 for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then Byron. So Byron, we all took Byron, and similar investment, pretty much $30 around that range on Byron. And he's got 3 top 10s, 1 top 5, but more importantly, 2nd last year, leading 55 laps, best race. So he's got the best race last year. This year, he's got 3 playoff top 10s, which is nice. He's got the momentum back. So that combination with being 12-1, he seemed like, a reasonable investment. Yeah,
much more than what Hamlin was at 6-1. So that's why I went his way. You're getting double the odds for better the stats. So, he's a no-brainer at 12-1.
Chastain is also 12-1. You and I put money on Chastain. CJ did not. And look, I said it last week. We said it a couple weeks ago. Got to see Chastain get a top 10. Got the top 10. I said last week, all right, I'm getting close. And it's you see a little bit more. Not Bristol. Didn't feel right at Bristol with all the possibilities. What could happen? Now the top 10. That's all I needed to see. I'm back on Chastain. You're on Chastain. We've not seen Chastain on this racetrack this year. I mean, in his career with the new car. So we don't care what he used to do. He was 15th at the Coke 600, led the most laps, 153 laps in that race.
Yeah, you're getting a bargain for that. I mean, playoff time. Playoff drivers are going to rise. Let's see what they can do. And he's finally turned that corner again, and he's good on a mile-and-a-half track. So I thought for those odds, it's kind of a no-brainer his way too. For why not?
Yes.
Why would you not take him at that? So I went his way.
Nobody touched Truex. Big surprise. He may be a good fantasy play though, because he has 17 top 10s in 32 races, but he's never won at Texas. All right, Now you got the 315-1 drivers, and here's an interesting. We all had different takes. I have Harvick, Logano. CJ has actually Harvick and Logano, so me and him were the same. But you took Logano and Reddick. So, like you said, you stood away from Harvick, first race after the playoffs. For me, it was just, I don't know. He's got the demeanor for me, Harvick, where, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil everybody, and I'm going to win, and I don't care. Plus, the other thing is how good he is on the racetrack. I mean, 13 top 10s in his last 14, 10 top 5s, 3 runner-ups, and 3 wins with 676 laps, which is an average of 48 laps per race over those last 14. That's just too good for me to not put a little bit of money on Harvick, who was also third at the Coke 600.
Yeah, he just is like Kyle for me lately, just 12th, 20th, 33rd, 36th, and then 10th. I just feel he's just not ready to win yet. And I just didn't feel like he was going to do it here. I just feel like the letdown maybe for that team. They expected more. Reddick, on the other hand, you could say the same thing. He ran well at Texas last year. I forget what took him back just a little bit last year. Because remember, him and Byron were right there with Larson for most of the way. Plus, I feel like Reddick's out to prove something. You just kind of feel like, oh, you want to get rid of me? Go ahead. I'm going to go out and just watch, just like he did at Indy. You won. So for 15-1, like, I feel like he could do a little bit better than Harvick this week. And Logano, 9 top 10s and 11 Texas starts. I'm like, I had to go his way. Plus, on intermediate tracks, he's finished 4th in each of his last 2 tries and 4 top 5s on him overall this season. So Logano seems to always 15-1, 20-1, just rise up with those odds. So I went his way, and I just didn't trust Harvick right now.
Yeah, Reddick has a runner-up in 3 races in the Cup Series here. Logano, in his last 17 races at Texas, has 13 top 10s, 10 top 5s, and a win. So it's all been over the last 17 races. Nobody took Wallace at 20-1. Bowman was the other driver we all took. 10th at the Coke 600. Here's Bowman's last 4 races at Texas. Crash 5th, crash 5th. So if he doesn't crash, he might be in contention, and we're getting 30-1.
Yeah, it just, again, shocks me like you said last week. 30-1. And he's got 4 top 10s in his last 6 starts on intermediate tracks. It's 2 top 10s in the playoffs. Could have been 3rd if he didn't caught up in a wreck out of his doing. So he just seems, I don't know why he's 30-1 and Byron's 12-1, that big gap between their teammates. So for 30-1, he's earned my trust back that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. How you just, hey, he's 31 all day, I'm going to keep taking him. And he fell off my trust for a while, but now he's back.
Last week was just, that wasn't his fault. It was just another bad luck for a car.
Just wrong place at the wrong time is all that was. I mean, his teammates finished the top 5. He probably would have if not for that. So, yeah, for 30-1. I'm going to take him again. I hope he keeps staying 30-1 because one time he's gonna hit here soon.
We definitely hope so. At 40-1, you have Cindric and Suarez. Nobody took Cindric. Suarez, CJ was the only one to put a little bit of money on Suarez, who finished 10th last year. 2 top 5s, including 3rd twice in 2019. Why did you stay away from Suarez? He's one of your fantasy drivers, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's got 1 top 5 and 6 intermediate starts this year. And then I looked at his season, 6 of his last 8, he's been 18th or worse. So I just don't see him magically just turning it on and winning this weekend. He just needs a top 10 to get by. So I just stayed away from him even at those odds.
Isn't it funny how Chris Buescher, who's done nothing at Texas over his career, is not 100-1 with the rest of the drivers, which he normally would be? He's now
Would be,
50-1 because he won last week. So
and then his teammate who
Keselowski,
has way better odds is 100-1.
Yeah,
it's like okay,
I'll take
I'm going to
that.
take the 100-1 teammate all day, every day.
Yeah.
I thought it was odd that when I looked at you have Keselowski and Jones at 100-1 when Keselowski arguably could have won. If that tire doesn't blow, he's winning last week. He's got 3 straight top 10s at Texas, 9th, 6th, 4th. Trends say he's going to win. He was finished the top 10 at Darlington a few weeks ago, led 109 laps at Bristol. He's 100-1. Eric Jones, 6 top 10s his last 7 at Texas, 3 fourth place runs in his last 6, 5 Xfinity tries. He's finished the top 4 in all of them with 2 wins. He just won at Darlington, and you're giving me both at 100-1 in a season of parity? Bring them on. Just like Buescher last week. I'm going to take it.
Well, you also I was surprised you put money on Almirola, but he has raced better over his career lately with 4 top 10s in his last 6, 101 laps, which is really good for Almirola. But his last 2 races, 23rd and 18th. Again, he is 50-1. And then Briscoe, actually Briscoe and Keselowski, I put money on. You put money on Briscoe, Keselowski, Dylan Jones, Almirola, and also going back to your oldie, long
Custer,
shot driver, Cole Custer at 200-1.
Yeah, Fords have been all right on intermediates. And it's like, you know what? For as long as he is, Buescher won. Seen crazier things. He's 201, throw his way. And Almirola just won the pole last week, so he's got some speed. And he seems to be getting better again. It seems like Almirola is starting to find his groove again. So that, granted, his finishes wasn't there. He couldn't help a mechanical failure last week too. But yeah.
What was the deal with his sponsorship? Because it looked he had like a white car.
Yeah, it's like white and blue. It's like a Ford deal or something.
I couldn't even tell who the heck this. I thought he had no sponsor. That's how white the car was.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like a Ford deal. But
anyway,
yeah, it was one of those. Now that I hit the long shot and got some decent.
Oh yeah, sure.
Close that gap. That I would have been remiss if I missed one this week after hitting it. So I'm like, I'm going to spread a little more their way.
Got $300 to invest in now.
That's what I used it on. You can tell. That's where my 41 with Blaney is I miscalculated below. I'm like, how much do I have left for the top? And I'm like, I have $1 left. I threw it to Blaney's way. So that's
you couldn't find somebody. You could have put it on. Let's see. You actually could have put it on. Who was it? Burton or Haley's 500-1. You could have put a buck on Haley at 500-1.
And watch, he's going to win. Watch, he's going to end up winning. He was third at Darlington in the spring. But
watch out.
Yeah. I went with the guy that won the last race in Texas. I'm going to throw the dollar his way. So.
And by the way, Austin Dillon, the 2020 champ at Texas, one of your picks at 100-1. Okay, so what's coming up? We got Talladega next week. That's a good one. It's always a good one. So
I'm curious what those odds are going to look like with all this parity, because I think if you get another non-playoff driver to win, 12-1 favorite, maybe?
The odds, the first race, who do you think was the favorite?
Hamlin. Was it Hamlin or Blaney?
Hamlin was a third choice.
Really?
Blaney was the favorite.
Okay, so
it was Blaney and Logano. Blaney 10-1, Logano was 12-1.
So I think now with what we've seen, you kind of have to go 12-1, don't you? When you look at the winners on super speedways this year, Cindric, Dillon, Chastain, you got 5 different winners if you count the Atlanta races in there.
Co-third choice, Talladega. Briscoe, Cindric, Keselowski,
they went off Daytona,
and Wallace.
Yep, they went. Those are 3 of the top 4 at Daytona, and then the guy that led the most laps. That's what they did. So I think you kind of have to go probably 12-1 as your favorite. I don't see anybody that separated themselves. We might get some really good odds next week, especially if we hit one of these long shots this week. And we have that extra $100. So we do. I know we do, but we hit that and the extra $100 next week.
No, actually, the $100 doesn't go because every round in our
it's
picks.
$300 all. Is it $300?
Yeah, $300.
Right? Yeah,
300.
That's what I meant. Yeah, you still get the $300.
Oh, the extra $100. Yeah, so we get the extra $100
based on,
yep.
Yeah. So you have 300.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be using up. We're gonna have a sheet. I'm gonna have to write down all these. Probably gonna have like 20 drivers each.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And they're all going to have some nice profits on them because you got 3. They're all going to be long odds.
Haley, Corey LaJoy, those guys.
Yeah, because I know I'm Larson, Truex, those guys I'm not picking.
Yeah.
But they open up. Kyle Busch, not good there in the fall. It's going to lead to some longer shots that you're going to probably have a log jam between 20 and 30 to 1, I bet.
Well, look, if Hamlin or Bell, if they're in trouble after this week, and they've got Charlotte coming up, the Roval, I'm putting money on them because you know how desperate they are going to be to win that race.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm sure you'll do that as well. But we'll see how it plays out on Sunday.
Well, we got time. Yep.
What is it? Another 3 o'clock start time, probably?
3:30, I think.
3:30, yeah. But we'll wrap that up and preview Talladega on next week's show. So, Eric, appreciate it as always. Keep those comments coming, everybody. Yep. Obviously, put it in the comments section where they belong, and we will answer any of the questions that you have, or if you just have any comments. Generally, we'll bring them out to light as well on the show. So, for Eric Smith, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see you next week.